Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I am back with another video. This time we are building for a mother of four. As you can see, I am back in Willow Creek and I feel like I've been spending a lot of time on this world and just building a lot here, and I'll tell you, this is mainly primarily because this is where I am on my save file. So I've been building a lot on Willow Creek. I was almost done with the builds that I had and I was ready to move on into a different world. However, I decided to go back into my old builds and kind of like just take a look at them and see what changes I can make, because again, my building style has changed since I last updated some of those lots that I built in the past. And so I wanted to go in and make a couple of updates, and that ended up being, a whole thing. Like, I literally moved Sims out of the homes that they had and started building new houses, and I'm thinking of moving other Sims in there. So it is a whole mess as of now, but I'm very excited and happy with the change that I've made as of right now, and I can't wait to show you guys. I'm still like I said, it's not done yet, so I don't want to like put it out there. I am thinking of maybe at some point doing a short video where I'm show you guys my progress so far, and maybe to just get some feedback on what you guys think might be necessary. Now I know we all play the game differently, so I do like to get a different perspective of different people to see, depending on how you play, what things you would like to see in the game. But anyways, moving on from that, I'll tell you, this home right here, I built something similar for this specific lot. Now for my save file, I do want this to be like a starter home, for like when you first out of cast, you can move into this place. So it's not going to be overly decorated for my save file. This is just an idea that I have after I built this lot. I was like, I just want to go ahead and decorate it, and I was just thinking of what family will live here, and what came to mind was I want to build a home for a single mom. So it was very fitting because on top of that, yesterday was Mother's Day. So shout out to all the mothers out there, and happy belated Mother's Day to all of you. If you guys are mothers, or if you're an older sister, that probably also applies to you, because funny enough, my younger brother, he sent me a happy Mother's Day text that morning. So I thought it was very fitting, because I'm the oldest sister anyway. But yeah, so this lot right here is going to be for a single mom with 4 kids. Now while I was building this, I was imagining that previously, before moving to this home, they were living in an apartment. Okay, now she has 4 children. I don't know for sure whether they all share the same dad, but she has 4 children. 2 of them are kids, 2 teenagers. And I was thinking of the fact that when they were living in an apartment, she was probably feeling very guilty that she didn't get to, she was not really providing a space for them. So they were living probably in like a 2-bedroom apartment. She was occupying 1 bedroom, and the 4 kids were occupying the other one. Her kids were also getting older, so she felt really strong about them. They need to have their own space as well, and have some type of privacy. So I think having those thoughts, and she was probably kind of thinking she was probably not being a good mom by not providing all these things for her children. So she felt very, very guilty about those feelings, and she just decided to make to do something about it. And my idea is that she started working really, really hard to save enough money to be able to buy a home. Obviously, being a single mom, I imagine that she received some help from from friends and maybe other family, but she's a primarily provider for her children. So I was thinking that she probably had to work really hard to be able to save enough money to even be able to afford to move into this place. Now obviously, being her first home and short on money, she couldn't really be picky of the home she would provide. Her main idea was like I think she was really thinking of making sure she had enough space for the kids. So she was thinking, I want to make sure I have a space for us to sit at the dinner table, and I also want to make sure that the children are able to maybe not one bedroom for each, because that will be, it's 4 children, so that will be 4 bedrooms. That could be something for the future, but at least to make sure that the older kids have their own space and then the younger kids also have their own space, so they can be creative and do their own thing. So yeah, I was mentioning this one of some of the thoughts that she will have while setting a goal to move into the house, or to buy a home, I'm sorry. So after she bought the home again, she gonna be picky about the house, but this home might not be the best looking one, but it is in perfect condition to move. There's no repairs per se that needs to be done, but it is a little bit outdated. So definitely there are some changes that she might need to make. So I imagine that the person that was selling the home, it's probably older people that used to live here, and they hadn't updated this home for a long time. But mom, she was not really worried about that. She was just happy that she had enough space for her and her children. And then I also was thinking that when she was trying to save enough money for this home, she probably also felt guilty about not spending enough time with the kids, because she was picking up like extra shift at work and stuff like that. I don't think having children so young, she probably didn't really have time to go university or anything like that. She was just she got married young, and then she divorced, and she was left with the 4 children, and the father, he doesn't really, I don't imagine that he takes care of them. I think she's just on her own, so she wants to make sure she do what's best, right? And so while doing this, I imagine like she was probably like like I said, taking extra shift at work, and doing everything she could to save enough money to buy the house. And at some point, after spending so much time at work, I'm sorry, she probably was not really paying enough attention to the kids. And I'm sure that she's very thankful for her older kids, because I'm thinking that during this time her older kids were probably looking out for the younger ones, making sure they have breakfast in the morning. Like I placed the cereal box there in the table, so I imagine that she would just make sure that is always ready there, and they have some quick access to that food. I also placed some bowls on the table. So my thinking was that when the kids wake up early in the morning, because moms leave to work so early, she doesn't really have enough time to spend with them and maybe have breakfast, but she made sure that they have everything ready before going to school. So yeah, but yeah, during this time when she was saving again, she was planning on spending a lot of time with them, so she also felt guilty about that. But now I was thinking when I was building this that she was able to land a job because she wants to be a teacher. So I'm thinking she is right now a sub. So she's a substitute teacher for now, but she would love to become a teacher. Now, if we are playing realistically, which is the way I like to do things, she wouldn't be able to get that job without a degree, right? You can't just become a teacher, but you can be a sub. You don't have to be, have an education degree to be a substitute teacher. Excuse me. So I'm thinking that's probably what she's doing right now, trying kind of like to get some type of training, an idea whether that's what she really wants to pursue. But yeah, I imagine that she's a substitute teacher right now, and on the side she's also doing some extra part-time jobs and some odds jobs here and there, helping people to earn some extra cash, as well as taking online classes for university to make sure that she gets that degree. So I know like it is probably very hard for her to be able to pay for rent and all that type of stuff, but well, not rent, but like a mortgage in this case. But I know for a fact that she's doing her best, and she is really excited about growing and just doing things so that her family can have a better life. Now, while decorating the home, I was thinking that again, she had just enough money to purchase the place, but she didn't really have extra to decorate or repair the house and whatnot. So we still stuck with the outdated wallpapers and stuff like that. But I do imagine that as her life gets better and she lands a better role, and she, when she becomes a teacher, she probably will start getting paid better, and then she will be able to spend some of that money repairing the house. And I think she will be focusing on creating a fund for her children, like a savings account for their college, or for the things that they need. But yeah, that was the main idea while I was building this. So I didn't want the house to feel too modern. I wanted it to be a little bit messy because, again, it's 4 children total, 2 teens and 2 kids. At some point I was thinking maybe I want her to have to be one of them to be a baby, but I decided not to. Feel like that would complicate things too much. It would be fun for gameplay though. But yeah, I was imagining this, those 4 children, and then she has the house accommodated so that they can, do the things that they like. I did play some arts and craft stuff there in the living room. Imagine that the kids probably sit there and while watching TV, they, have fun doing stuff like that. Also, I tried to make it look a little bit messy but put together at the same time. So like they have toys and stuff in there as well, but they know for a fact that whenever they finish playing with those things, they have to put everything away. But anyway, so we're moving here to mom's bedroom. Now hers is the biggest bedroom area. Again, nothing fancy for furniture because it's not that you can afford much. But one thing that I like to do, which I don't know if other people like to build this way, but I like to think of the Sims that are going to be living in the house. And when I do that, I think about their career, right, and how much they're able to, what can they afford. So in this case, the Sim here, the family itself, is struggling with money, right? So I don't think they will own anything that is very fancy, right? And she wouldn't really be picky about the stuff that she keeps at home. Like I imagine that a lot of the things that she owns were gift, or maybe taken for trip to marketplace, or for that event. Can't remember the thing. It's like a flea market that they do in the scene. So I'm thinking that not dumpster diving, but a lot of the things that she owns are used. They are not really brand new. So when I build, this helps me. Having this idea really helps me when it comes to decorating, because we have so many items. In my case, I have all the expansion packs and whatnot as of now, except for like 2 of the last kits, which I don't really care much for those. I feel like, I don't know, the last 2 releases that I didn't like that much. I feel like I don't really have a need for any of the items that comes with that pack, with those 2 small kits, so I haven't really bought them yet. But anyway, yeah, when I'm building and I have this idea, I'm trying to think, like I said again, of the family, and I don't think that we're able to afford any fancy stuff, right? So that helps me limit myself, when I'm building, because it gets overwhelming when you have access to all these items, and then I'm thinking like, how am I going to decorate, what I'm going to use. There's so much stuff. But thinking this way, or thinking of the Sims and their budget, right, helps me budget myself as well when I'm building, because I'm like, I'm not going to place this nice chair here because obviously it's not like they can afford it. So it's just kind of like give that realism to the game, and also helps me through gameplay. I haven't done gameplay in a long time, but this building this way, it makes me excited about playing, because then the story that I give to Sims feels more real, right? I try to apply the same theme when I'm creating Sims. So again, because we have so many packs available, I tend to get overwhelmed again by all the amount of items that we have in Create a Sim. So I feel like thinking of the Sims personality also helps me create outfits for them, right? So example, if I have a Sim that is I'm thinking that they probably are going to be very active, they're very into sports and stuff like that, I'll definitely try to choose pieces of clothing that will match that. And in a way, it does help me visualize that personality for that Sims and stay through to the story, rather than just pick whatever. And then I don't know, for me it makes the gameplay feel more immersive. I think that's the word for it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it just makes me I don't know, I feel like you get more into the gameplay. I don't know how to explain it. Forgive my limited vocabulary in English, but nonetheless, I think the message is, it is just very exciting to match the home and the outfits to the personality of the scene. It definitely, at least for me, makes it really fun, and I enjoy it very much. Now, as you can see here, I feel like I haven't really talked about this build much, but you guys get the idea. The family is going to be living in here. But yeah, this second bedroom, this is for the older kids. When I was decorating the other bedroom, I was just thinking that the kids probably are into like camping and stuff like that, and they get like into boxing, animals, and all that type of things, and that's something that I enjoy to do. Older kids, they don't really care much for all this stuff. I feel like they just want to hang out with friends, and they don't spend as much time at home anymore. But the kids, I do think like mom maybe at some point felt guilty because now that they have a home, the young kids get to do more stuff, but the oldest ones didn't get to do all these things when they were younger, and maybe it's just something she also feels guilty about. But I'm pretty sure her kids don't resent her. I like to think they're very good kids, and then she, they know that she did her best, right? But yeah, here I'm trying to decorate this hallway area. Now I do add that little side table and some extra decorations. I do end up changing that because I was thinking again, because the younger kids, they into like animals and stuff like that. They want to have it all. So they have a fish, which I end up putting on the table, and then they have bugs all around the room. And I did place one of those items like you can have like crickets and stuff like that from Eco Style Pack. I put that in the patio area, thinking that that's also the kids, they decided to do that. They raising bugs there. So I thought that was fun. But I do change the hallway, and I put one of those rats pets thingy that came with my first pet stuff pack. So yeah. Anyway, so here we're moving to the outside again. I'm using again that terrain pen. I've been very excited about using that. It is the Eco Lifestyle terrain pen, and then on top the one for the Royal Pack, and I fused them together, and it looks like a very used driveway, and I really like the way it looks. So I did that in here again. I think I did it for the grandparents build as well. So yeah, I've been doing this a lot, and this is one of the changes that I've been making on my other builds. When I was primarily like building, when I was initially, building for Willow Creek, before I made the recent changes, I had only the Eco Lifestyle pen. Obviously at the time we didn't have the Royal Pack, so after trying this, I went into all those older builds and I updated that. So I really like that. That's one of the changes that I've been making for my save file. But yeah, and then I'm using a little bit of the rain paint to make this grass look a little bit worn now, and like it doesn't really been taken care of. It's not really grown, but I do imagine that there's a lot of patches and whatnot, because mom probably knows nothing about grass, and she doesn't really care much about the outside. She just probably pays somebody to like come in and cut the bunches every so often. But personally, she doesn't do anything about it. Plus, it's not like she has time. She's being a mom, and on top of that, she's trying to better herself, going to school and doing all these things to make sure she can give her children a better future. So yeah, so here I'm using this fence again. I didn't mention this in my previous video. I love using this fence. I'm so happy that it is base game. I can't wait to do a base game only build when I use this. Now I was thinking of doing that actually, but one of the things I was using, because I use those little bushes now for my poor landscaping skills, and that one, there's a base game version of that bush, but it has a big shadow under, and that really bothers me, because when you make it small, you can really see that shadow and it looks dark on the floor. There's no way to get rid of it. So the only one that doesn't have it is the same version of the tree that comes with the horse pack. So if I'm trying to do base game, so using that tree is not gonna work. So, and I don't want to use the base game version because it has that shadow, so it really bothers me. So now I have to look through the catalog and kind of find something that could replace that for a base game home. But yeah, still not sure about it. But anyways, then here I'm trying to place this tree. I love adding this tree again, I think, because you are able to see the reflection of the leaves and stuff with the lighting. I think it looks so cool. It stays there for a little bit, but I do change it. You will see it on the screenshots, but I do move the tree to the outside with the help of the tool mud, because I feel like there it was on the way and I didn't like how it was going through the fence, so that was bothering me. So I do end up changing that later on. Now here we're moving back to the patio area. I think when I'm doing this is when I made this change to the hallway and I decided to add the little rat thing. But yeah, here I'm trying to add some patio area. Imagine again on her mom on her free days, she likes to spend time here with her kids, just to hang out. And this is something new for them because it's not like they could do this before at the old apartment. So I think one of the things she likes to do with her kids is to spend time outside. Let's just spend some time in the backyard. Let's hang out together. Let's cook some food and sit here and just enjoy the nice weather. And this lighting is very pretty, I'll tell you that. Now I did add some planters here in the patio, but I don't imagine that mom is really into gardening. I think that would be a hobby that she might pick up later on, just so that as a way to relax or so. But I don't think that's something that she does every day. Like she doesn't really care much for plants. Again, she has somebody that I imagine that she has somebody that come here and take care of all those things. But yeah, so after I'm pretty sure I added some extra decoration in the front area. Like I did a soccer ball and a couple of bikes for the kids. I imagine that they probably after they come from school they like to hang out outside and just play with each other for a little bit. But yeah, we are getting close to the screenshot. So again, I just want to thank you guys so much for being here and taking the time to watch the video. I hope you enjoyed the screenshots and I will see you in the next one. Bye.